Hey guys, welcome to Serious Laughs. This is episode 32, Shining a Light on Narcissistic Abuse.
The telltale signs of narcissistic abuse and what recovery looks like.
Hey you guys, I'm Molly and I am a film producer.
Hi everyone, I'm Sheri and I have a secret addiction to popcorn.
Give us something juicy, Laura. Come on.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. Okay, I really love Taylor Swift. I have my Taylor Swift cup right here.
Ooh, I love it. So you're a Swiftie? Is that what we call you?
I am. I even have a tattoo. It's a whole thing. Yes.
We are never getting back together.
That's right.
Perfect for your brand.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. A lot of her stuff is on brand for me.
That's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we see why. Well, Sheri, why don't you tell us who we got?
Oh
in
my
studio
God.
today?
We have Laura Richards, who is a narcissist abuse. Got to finish that sentence. She's
Right,
not
exactly.
a narcissist. She is a narcissist and we are masochists. No, Laura Richards is a narcissist abuse recovery expert. And I want to start with this because you have a beautifully stated, powerful mission, Laura. Welcome.
Thanks.
Your mission is to shine a light on narcissistic abuse and let women know they are never alone and that healing is always possible. That is so powerful. Can you share with our listeners the origin story behind this? This didn't just happen in a vacuum.
No. So no. Well, thanks for having me, you guys. I'm really excited. So we got to laugh about it because that's what healing sounds like when you can laugh. And I spend a lot of time making fun of narcissists on my show and all over my social media because humor helps. Been told for a lot of years, you shouldn't be laughing about things. And so it's like, shut up. So this is what I will do. I will laugh about it all because it really does help. It's the good chemicals that got to get back in our body. So I spent 33 years with a narcissist, and after 32 years of marriage, we got a divorce. And actually, I didn't know he was a narcissist. It was a surprise. Because when you are in psychological abuse, you don't even know what's happening to you. So I just thought I had a really difficult husband who wasn't really participating in the marriage. And so when I left and started to understand what was going on, one of the reasons why I say I want people to know, women to know, I work with women in midlife, want them to know that they're not alone, is I felt really alone when I started to unravel all the lies. After 3 decades, and people around me, the circles I was running in and the communities I was in, they were just like, well, just forgive him and move on and don't worry about it. You guys were divorced, so it's okay that he's with somebody else. And just all the like excuses, and all that does is protect the abuser. And while everyone doesn't have to go on a podcast or anything like that, I felt very stifled for actually 55 years of my life. And as I was healing, I started to unravel that and was like, let me just make some petty videos on social media. So that's what I did first. And that's how I started healing. I started making petty videos.
Well, that's therapeutic. And it goes back to what you said, Laura, the humor, you're changing your whole hormonal structure, your catecholamine activity in the brain. Those feel good vibes. Yeah.
So that's why every time somebody told me to be quiet, it like triggered something in me. It was like, but I've always had to be quiet. Why do we have to be quiet? Why aren't we talking about this? Why do we not talk about abuse? Do you know how many people came out of the woodwork after I started posting on social media? And they said, I used to be in abuse. Did you know that? No. Why would I know that? No one talks about it. Not like you have to put it in your bio on social media or something, but I just felt really strongly that if we don't talk about it, then other people could get into it, because I didn't even know what was happening until after I was divorced, because it's such mind games.
Yeah. So what does that look like in a relationship? You mentioned that he was just kind of floating through the marriage, wasn't participating.
Yeah.
What did that look like to you? in your marriage.
Yeah.
And
Well,
what could people look for in
Yeah.
their relationships, like early on?
yeah.
Those red
Well,
flags.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. So if you are early on, you're going to see like love bombing, right? So it's all that the gift giving and you're amazing and I've never met anybody like you and you're the greatest person ever. They're showering you with that. But then you'll start getting the devaluing or the little, side jabs right away. So see, that's the hard part. You have green, 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 green flags, and then you get one red one, and then you get green, 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 and then you go, wait, what was that red flag? Oh, it's not a big deal. He was tired. He was this, he was that. And you start making the excuses. So red flags, because people are like, I would have left at the first red flag. I'm like, the first red flag was him telling me that I wouldn't look good as that girl over there in that outfit. That's a red flag where you go, what the hell? And then if you say something, you're too sensitive. So narcissists, like on paper, okay, you don't have to have a diagnosis, but narcissists on paper they have a lack of empathy, a high need of control. And so just those two basic things. And so if they're turning everything around onto you saying like, you're so sensitive, God, why do you make such a big deal about everything? And then of course, if we don't blame for abuse, but we look at ourselves and say like, okay, what's in me? And I know what was in me. I had a deep need to be loved. Laura needed to be loved. And so I was going to do anything. I'm not going to give up on my marriage the first time he calls me Shamu or something. You know how many times I asked him to stop doing that? Because he knew it was a trigger. I didn't know you didn't like that. Well, number one, why would you think anybody would like that? They never remember you said that. So it's just all part of the mind games. And so that's hard. If you feel like you're constantly having to ask your partner to not do something and they won't stop, that's never going to change because that's manipulation. Because behavior, like if their words and actions match, then that's appropriate. But when they don't match, that's manipulation. So you have to be careful with that. It's just, look, 33 years of stories and we have a lot of information, but we'll talk about it.
I love that you point out, Laura, the core, because anyone listening who's wondering, am I in a narcissistic abusive relationship or,
Yeah.
That's what everybody's doing right now, listening, like, is it me? Who am I in this? When you hit the nail on the head, when you talk about but I, Laura, had this need to be loved.
Yeah.
And it's what we bring to any relationship,
right.
Their energy, and you're bringing that need to be loved, and you don't carry that energy anymore because you have the love unconditionally inside of you.
That's exactly it.
Changes everything. They're not going to want to stay around you, narcissists, because they're not going to get the supply.
No, you have to live off your internal validation. So that's what I start working on right away in coaching. A lot of people are like, I just can't leave. And I know that I can hear it in their voice that it's because they don't think that they're worth anything outside of this relationship because they've been told that, or society has told us that. Look, we've been taught wrong, with the fairy tales and Disney. Look, I love Disney, but like Cinderella meeting this guy and then getting married, it's like, come on, Cinderella, you don't even know him, so slow it down. So it's those kinds of things. That's what we want, but we don't, it's too fast. And so we have to slow down and, societally, we can slow down now. It's not like women are worthless if they are single. It's not like it used to be where you really had to get married and your value was wrapped around a man. All of this makes me sound like a man hater. I am not. I am not a man hater. I hate abuse, and that's what we talk about. So I always warn others, just slow down, because you have to know, who are you? And when they are criticizing you, think about it, because what will happen is the things they used to love about you now become your criticisms. And so think about what they're saying to you. Like, oh, I love that you're a painter. I love that you're whatever, a podcaster. And then all of a sudden it's like, God, do you have to do that? It's so embarrassing. Like, you're not even doing anything with that. Like, nobody even listens. Listen to that kind of thing, because what they used to love about you, they're going to break down so that they can get you to change.
And give more attention to them. They're
Well, yeah,
babies.
they are babies. Yes. And it's really just about control. That's all it is. It's all about control, because half the time, well, not half the time, but a lot of the time is that you'll find during the devaluing or discarding phase, they don't even want to talk to you anymore. So it's like, now you are isolated. You don't have friends. You no longer have your career that you worked so hard on because they told you it was weird or silly or dumb, or why are you doing it? And now you're this shell of a human being. I just 0 out of 10. Do not recommend.
And it happens gradually, guys. It doesn't happen, that you're an intelligent, articulate woman, and the fact that it took you so long is very, unfortunately, typical.
It is. And they do go after women who, they don't go after just anybody. They go after women who are highly educated, quality women, because they're going to mirror you. And they're going to want to feed off of maybe the way you are in social circles, or maybe who you know, and even just the way you carry yourself in the world. And they feed off of that. They mirror you. I'm going to say this, and it's going to be really sad. And look, you're falling in love with yourself at the beginning. That's who you're falling in love with. Just know it, because that's who they're going to mirror you. They're chameleons.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
I'm like, been there, done that. I'm like, unfortunately, I've been there too. And the lessons continue until you do the core, which is loving yourself.
Yeah.
Because once I don't know how you phrase it. It was so beautiful. I saw, Molly, you wrote it down. Like, you
I wrote something down.
yourself. You check in with yourself. That self-love, when it comes from in here, you realize, I don't need that.
Yeah. I don't even, that's the thing, is when you love yourself enough, and I say this all the time, whenever I'm talking to people, when you love yourself enough, you won't put up with this. I'm telling you. And so this is the thing we have to remember. We're societalized to, oh, you love yourself? That seems weird, or that's wrong. Okay. So, but we're societalized to be the other way, is to be like, oh, okay. Think about when somebody gives you a compliment, or you give somebody a compliment. They're like, oh, this old thing, or no, I look terrible today. Why? We've been societalized that it's not okay. And so this is getting us into trouble if we continue with that. So you're allowed to love yourself. And the reason that you have to learn loving yourself is because you're never going to learn boundaries if you don't. And boundaries is the key to changing your entire life. What you want is okay. Did you know that what you want is okay? Like, you're allowed to want things. And we're not taught that. And we're told the opposite. And that's how we get into trouble.
And it is more gender specific.
Oh, yes. Yes. Women definitely are societalized. I have had a couple of men on my, in my comments recently saying things. And I said, I know men are societalized to, like, don't go to therapy, just tough it out, pick up, pull up your, by your bootstraps and all that. And that's getting them into trouble. But that's not who I work with. That's not who I talk to. I value their opinion, but that's not who I work with. And so as women, we're societalized a certain way, and it's time to break that way. And it's hard because we have family systems, right? That we're a certain way. I'm a parentified daughter. So of course I wasn't going to, okay. So Laura left the house, went to college, and was looking for love. Hello, anyone? You know what I mean? So, and that's where I found him, so
we're indoctrinated.
Yes. I mean, what can we do? So that's why we have to be aware of what's going on. Because some women we get, especially women in midlife who I work with, they're like, I've never chosen anything for myself ever. And I'm like, that sounds right. This is what we've been taught our whole life. That's like, so you're in good company, but there's still time to break it.
Are you finding, Molly, I don't want to interrupt.
No, go ahead. Nope.
Are you finding the women you work with that it's a predominant age group? And not so much like women in their 20s and 30s, Well,
they definitely found me too. yes, my biggest audience is, 45 to 65, which is, my audience, it's me. Cause you're always talking to yourself really when you're, when you're doing anything. And so that's who I started to focus on because I'm amazed at how many women are like, yeah, I just spent 32 years. I just spent 40 years, and so those women are like, now what? I was there. I was like, I was 55. I'm like, what do I do now? And the wonderful thing is anything you want. Let's go. There's nobody holding you back now. And by this point, maybe your kids are grown or they can take care of themselves. And so you have a lot of freedom. And while society is like, oh, you sad, poor, lonely woman with a cat. No, I'm good. Like this right here is all peace. It's all peace in my house. And do I have a cat? Yes, because you have to get one after you get a divorce. They should have that like when you go to file. They're like, here's your cat. Here's your cat. I mean, it'd be great. I just talked to the Humane Society. I'm like, this would be a great idea.
That is a great idea. You could, get a sponsor with a cat society.
Right.
You bring up a great point. I've been hearing it myself as a divorced single woman, on the cusp of being a full empty nester. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. And it's like, what? No, they're grown ass boys. Like I worked my ass off to make sure that they'd be okay, and I love them. But that's what's supposed to happen.
That's what's supposed to happen.
And this is my time now.
And you can sit and eat your popcorn in peace.
And no.
You don't have to hide your secret, Sheri.
My Baba is my friend. Get out of my way. This is my couch now.
I do love me some good popcorn. I do. I do like, is it Smart Pop or Skinny Pop? What is that? What is that
Skinny
one?
Pop.
Skinny. I don't.
What do they put in there? I'm like,
why is it like sprinkled with like crack? Because it is so good.
It's
like
so
what?
good.
Why? And I'm like, it's literally popcorn, salt.
I know. And
whatever they do is amazing.
And I love what you said. Like, and when we like so many people are, like going out at night and no, I don't want to go out at night. I want to sit in my pajamas and eat my popcorn. Netflix and chill for me.
Yeah, for me.
I was like, wait, hang on. That's
eat my popcorn. This is the thing. I had somebody
on your terms. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. And I had somebody say to me, well, he's already with somebody, so I feel like I'm a loser. And I'm like, well, but you think that getting right into a relationship is the prize, and that's not the prize. The prize is realizing that you are the love of your life. That's the prize, because we haven't been taught that. And if we're in a certain position, certain age, a certain place in our family, we haven't been taught that, and look, my parents were born in the 30s, like, hello, so this is the example I had. My parents were still together when my mom passed away. And so I always thought that this is just the way it's going to be. And you find your person, you're going to be with them forever, and you just make it work. But that can get us into trouble. And so that's why we see single women who are like, I'm good. Because not that we don't want a partner, we'd love a partner. But boy, you can't look. I fear that I'm not going to give too many chances. I'll be like, what did you just say? Please get out of here.
get off. Oh, I see where your mind is.
No, I was saying get off the couch is what I was thinking.
Okay. Like get out. Like, I want the popcorn for myself. That's what she's saying, Molly. It's about the get. Yeah.
What am I going to say?
God, Molly, jeez.
You get right to the sexual stuff.
Netflix chilling post-menopause is about skinny popcorn.
That's right.
Absolutely. And the toppings. I get the flavor toppings too. So when the gals come and they're with you and they're working with you, what is the goal? I mean, you may have touched on this when you said live off your internal validation, getting them to that point. So is that really the goal? It's really about looking inside?
Yeah, the goal is, well, we're going to learn how to set boundaries. And then the
Mhm.
big end goal is dreaming for the future. So I start with, I'm going to validate them for what they just did. Okay. I don't care if you've been out a minute or 100 years. A lot of them are just, I still have people in my DMs who are like, I've been out 3 years. I'm still struggling. Okay. Well, join the club, like, let's work together, because you're not going to just get healing overnight. And I'm going back to trauma informed therapy. I want to do more work. I feel like things are starting to come up, starting to get more clarity, because you get clarity after you leave abuse as you do healing. And my brain is going, this was a lie, and this was a lie, and this was a lie. And I'm just like, okay, I just want to go talk to somebody about it. And so I'm going to go do more of that. So I'm validating them, and we're going to learn really what narcissistic abuse is, and see, is that what you were in? And a lot of them already know, they already feel like they know. And then we're going to learn how to love ourselves and set boundaries. And the big thing is, then we're going to dream for the future. They don't have to like come up with a business or anything like that, but some of them are just like, okay, now what? And I want them to be okay with just moving in the world again. And it might just be that me having a quiet life is okay. And this is my dream, was to have peace. Okay, well, you have it. And so once you start dreaming about things like that, you can really move in any direction you want. And you never know what's going to come out of that.
Yeah, it actually is. It kind of feeds on itself, just like negative things feed on itself. Like, and now, like, I'm hearing this, and I'm post a narcissistic abusive relationship, and the longer I go, the more alone,
Mm-hmm.
the more I tune in more quickly, and I'm no longer thinking about boundaries. I'm thinking about what do I want. It's just becoming, that muscle's getting stronger, and it feeds on itself. And when I'm not enjoying something, especially as we get older, but I hope younger women are hearing this too. Like, we only get this one life. Why are you wasting your time wearing Spanx? Like, and we wear emotional Spanx, right?
Right. Yes.
Like, oh, I don't know. It's okay. It's all good. No,
Everything's fine.
Rip off the Spanx emotionally. Say you don't want to go, and get on the couch with the popcorn.
Yeah, exactly. And talking to your friend, you have to find those safe friends.
Yes.
That, you just very casual, that you can just hang out and have, there's great going to dinner friends, but then I love my friends who I can talk to them about the really deep stuff and say, yeah, I'm going to go back to therapy. And then like, oh, that's great. Not like, oh God, really? You should just, there's nothing wrong with taking meds and things like that. But ultimately for me, it wasn't going to get me where I wanted to go, as far as like sitting on the couch. My Netflix was Netflix and wine. And my therapist was like, yeah, there's plenty of time for that, but is that going to get you where you need to go? And I found that with drinking, I always bring this up, and I don't want anybody who drinks to feel bad about this in any way. This is what I did. I had to listen to my body and understand what was going on. I used to drink to escape my marriage and what was going on in my marriage. So when I was still having a glass of wine with, like, every day at 4:00 or whatever cocktail time was, I was like, why am I doing this? And I had to really talk to myself, because it started to trigger me and go like, oh no, you used to do this to numb out. And so that, anyway, all that to say, start listening to your body and what works for you. Because being at home is my favorite thing. Going out, no, not my favorite thing. And so I'm listening to me. It's okay to be an introvert. It's okay to take this time. And after narcissistic abuse or any kind of domestic violence, you are going to want to do whatever feels best for you, whatever that is.
Very, very good advice. What was your wake-up call?
I finally was like, am I doing this for another 40 years with him? Because what if I was alive for another 40 years? And I just couldn't stand it anymore. Like he was barely talking to me. He had announced at some point that he wasn't going to have sex with me, things like that. And I'm just like, I was just holding on, just holding on. And they're serving it up on a silver platter because they don't want to be the one to say they want a divorce. Some of them do. This one didn't. So it was the reverse discard. He kind of forced my hand by being as terrible as he could. And I just said I couldn't do it anymore. And I had been in therapy, and my therapist said, you know, you've been really clear with him what you want. He's either unwilling or unable. And really, after 32 years and 33 years together, do you have to explain to the person who is supposed to be the love of your life how to treat you better? Like, you don't know? Yeah, you know. He knows what he's doing. And I'll tell you how they know what they're doing. They don't abuse everybody. They only abuse who they want to abuse, because they go out into the world and they have friends, and they treat their family nicely. And, you know, especially a covert narcissist, they're stopping on the side of the road to help a stranger and while abandoning their family. And so I know, I used to think, well, he just doesn't realize what he's doing. And if I only had a more clear PowerPoint presentation to give to him, then he would know how to love me. No, he knew how. He just didn't want to. And yeah, that has nothing to do with me. That has to do with him. So I want people to hear that. That has nothing to do that. You're not unlovable. You're asking the wrong person to love you.
Wow.
And do we know, like, sorry, do we know how these people become to be this way?
Yeah. They kind of have an idea. I've heard a couple of different things, but you know, it comes from usually emotional neglect from the mother. It's usually, so the majority are men, and it's not like there's not women narcissists. Okay. So, but from experience, I know that from the statistics, the majority are men, and it comes from a mother wound and emotional neglect from the mother. So at some point, there was probably a trauma or something, and the man probably said, no one's ever going to hurt me ever again. And they started to kind of build up a wall and a resistance. And then also, when you know you can't go to your mother for that emotional well-being, you become hard if there's nobody there. So I'm thinking back to his parents. They had major trauma in their life. They had major trauma in their life, and they were born in the 30s. Nobody was going to therapy, you know, and I just think about it. I'm like, well, she created a whole nest of narcissists, and it's really sad. And
can it also happen with the opposite, where I feel like I've read this. Is this possible? Okay. You're the expert. Okay. Where they're very, the moms worship their sons like they're God.
Yeah, but think about that, because I did talk to somebody about that. They're like, well, that doesn't make sense, because I did do a video on the emotional neglect from the mother, and somebody said, but that doesn't make sense because, you know, my ex-mother-in-law just worshipped him. Okay, but that's not emotional. That's not an emotional, like, you're not giving them emotional well-being, right? You're just, because this is how they say the experts, and Dr. Caroline Leaf is really good about that. She's a psychologist, and she talks about how not to build a narcissist, you know, when you're raising children. Every trophy, everything, we're just saying that the end goal of you being the best is the prize. Or how about, so what she talks about is, no, you praise their effort. That's what we're doing. So if the mom is like, my son is the best all the time, he's the best at everything, but he's not getting anything emotionally from her, that's what I think. And that's what I've come to understand. There's still something missing.
Yeah. Cause the ones I know, it was praised.
Right. And you think about, like, when you're watching movies or TV shows or something, and they're always, you see some of those, I can't even think of an example, but you see those parents where an adult child is still trying to get their parents to love them by saying, look, Dad, I got a promotion or whatever. Look, Mom, here's my new wife or whatever. And them going, yeah, that's good. Or whatever. It's just never enough. It's just never enough. It's like always that it's never good enough. And then they have their own issues, right? The moms or the dads, they have their own issues. And so they haven't dealt with their crap. And so that seeps out and it's all just terrible.
That is very sad.
What'd you say, Sheri?
And that's why we stay single.
I know, sadly. Well, I think I would see.
Yeah, sorry.
No, well, I said I think I would see it now, but who knows?
Well, that's just it. Like, when do you see it? And I think generally men don't want. I don't want anyone getting angry, but it seems like there's not as much willingness, and it's not their fault because we have been taught societally as women to look within and self-criticize. Men have been taught to, like you said earlier, pick themselves up by the bootstraps. So unless you have a man who's willing to go for therapy, most men are like, self-reflect. I self-reflected. I'm fine. And so
yes, exactly.
That's why I say, like, it's not like you said, it's not that you don't want to meet someone. It's just if they're not willing, we all have issues, but you have to be willing to look at them. And I find that men tend to not want to look.
Well, they're not societally, they're not taught that. So I'm hoping that it gets better because there's guys on the internet who are talking about that they're going to therapy and the things they're dealing with. Because people ask, can a narcissist change? I'm like, well, the first step is admitting you have a problem and they don't think they have a problem. Mine served me on a silver platter that he said, if you think I'm doing something wrong, you should go to therapy to deal with it. So I did. And, in therapy is where, there were a lot of years of therapy did nothing because I was, hitting my head against a wall with him. But, towards the end, I found my voice there. And that's where I started to understand I'm good. She wasn't the one who said, you should leave, because she wasn't that way, and the good ones won't do that. But she just, whenever I would say, I'm going to leave, she'd encourage me and just help me with that. And what does that look like? And you've been really clear with him, he's either unwilling or unable, but then they give you a breadcrumb and you go, oh, look, it's getting better. It wasn't ever getting better. It was 33 years of it not getting better. When was it going to get better? I don't know why I was still holding on to hope other than I loved him. I was trauma bonded. I valued our marriage as far as I thought I would just always be married. And why? And I think people who are married for a long time, sometimes I look at them and go, why are you still married? You don't even like each other.
No, they argue. They act like more siblings than anything else.
Yeah. I know it's bad, but I can't help it.
That's funny though. Why are you doing it? Why are you doing it?
There was a thing I saw on social media and it says, fuck nudes. Send me your dated therapy receipt. But then I hear guys like even on dating apps are like saying words that sound like they're going to therapy, but I think I could have a conversation. There's a language to healing. Okay, so like if we're all have been in therapy or some sort of healing process, there's a language to it. Like we're talking about certain things. And so anyway, I'm not dealing with that. I'll direct you to somebody if you need to date, but that's not me. That's not who I'm.
You're the recovery healing expert.
Yeah.
You've written a book. It's a process. And you've written a book and you have a free chapter. Can you tell us about how our listeners can get that book and what people could get out of the book? It sounds very intriguing. Yeah.
So I've written a few books, but this one was the most recent. It's You're Not Crazy, Reclaiming Your Sanity and Self-Worth After Narcissistic Abuse. And yes, you can get a free chapter on my website. So it's so I put in some information on, I broke it down into 9 different chapters on how to heal after gaslighting, because that's like the biggest thing that narcissists use and make you feel so completely crazy. That's the most common word that everybody uses. It's the most common feeling everyone has at the end. It was the first thing out of my mouth when I found out about his quote unquote new girlfriend And I said, "Oh, I wasn't crazy." Okay, because that's how they make you feel. So I talk about that. I also give you some mental health strategies in there, some journaling prompts, stuff like that. So, and then you can get a free chapter. Check it out before you buy it on my website. That's where I'm at, podcast.com. It's right under freebies. So there's a few things you can, sign up to book a free call with me to see if we should work together or if you have any questions, stuff like that. So
I commend
Well,
you.
I love it. I love that this came out of something so icky.
Yeah.
But now I'm curious, what were you doing before? Like what were you doing when you were married?
Yeah. So I was a speech therapist, which my friends have pointed out. I was teaching people to talk. So,
well, the irony is you couldn't give yourself a voice, but you were giving others a voice.
Look, I started a podcast because nobody would listen to me talk. So like, I mean, it's just crazy. So I was a speech therapist in the school district for 15 years. My son is actually deaf. And as people were working with him, I was like, I want to do that. So I went back to school, and I was a stay-at-home mom, before that. And when he was born, and went back to school to become a speech therapist, did that for 15 years in the school district. And I stopped doing that in 2020 because 2020 was 2020. And I was like, I'm done. And my mom had passed away from COVID, and our sister-in-law passed away from COVID. And so it was really a traumatizing time. And if you remember back to the beginning of our episode, with a lack of empathy as their cornerstone, narcissists do not care that your mom or your sister-in-law has just died. Why aren't you working? So,
oh my God.
So he was, so like, listen, you're full on piece of shit. So, I mean, that's all I can say. Like, that's all I have to say. Why are you still sad? I don't know. My mom's dead. That's kind of sad.
Yeah.
And then our sister-in-law died during COVID and died alone in the hospital. I mean,
his sister.
No, it was my brother's wife.
Got it. Okay.
And
okay. I was thinking the same thing, Sheri.
And so it was our sister-in-law, but they don't have any empathy. And also, I really don't know that they have feelings because they weren't taught that because they were emotionally neglected. And so I think they're imitating and mirroring the world. And he just got to a point where he was like, you know what? I don't think they would want us to be sad anymore. And so I'm not going to be sad. I'm just going to be happy. Okay. Well, guess what? You can still be sad. Do I cry the same way I did when my mom first passed away? No. But am I allowed to be sad? I sure am. I'm allowed to be sad when it's her birthday or, the day of her death or Mother's Day or anything like that. But lack of empathy is their thing. And you're really bothering them. Like, oh my gosh, why are you sad? That's really bothersome. Go make my dinner. So it was that kind of thing. Like, why are you still sad? And why aren't you working? So when I stopped being a speech therapist, I started just like an online boutique, which was really ironic because it happened right around the time of the shutdown. And so it worked out well for me. I did an online boutique and, doing stuff on social media. But then, like we were talking about earlier, he's like, that's really embarrassing when you get on social media. And then like we'd go out when things were opening up, we'd go out to dinner with friends and they'd be like, oh, I want to buy that whatever, or, from my boutique. And he'd be like, God, that was so embarrassing. I'm like, I didn't say a word. Like, God forbid I try to sell something, but I didn't say a word. They just happened to see my products and wanted to buy them, but that's so embarrassing. But
it's not embarrassing. It's a threat because you're blossoming and he can't deal with
that's
that.
Exactly it. Yes. And I noticed that too, when we would go out with certain friends and they really liked me, how you just vibe with people when you're out, and we wouldn't see those friends really again because they liked me too much and that wasn't the reason he gave. The reason he gave was because I was really embarrassing. I was too loud or too noisy or I told an embarrassing story or whatever the reason is. Just insert something, ludicrous here. And it's just, there's no winning. The goalpost continues to be moved. And that's why sometimes when I think about these women who are like, you've been with your partner for 1,000,000 years, like and they don't ever want to marry you. It's like, they're just going to keep moving the goalposts, you know. Well, if you lose 15 pounds, I'm like, I'm going to lose 190 in about a minute right now. So just wait a second, because I don't want to lose them 15. And it's that kind of stuff. It's like, no, don't ever let someone put that kind of a thing on you. It's like Lucy with the football, though I think that might be too old of a reference for some people.
Oh,
it's like
Charlie Brown.
Yeah, Lucy with the football with Charlie Brown. She just pulls it away every time. It's like, whoops, guess she didn't get it this time. So nothing was ever good enough. If I would only be better, our marriage would be better. I was too gaslit and trauma bonded and confused to say like, yeah, but if only you would stop doing these things, then it would be better. I really couldn't do that because he would get mad, and the goal was never to get him mad. So that was the long answer, but those are the only answers I have. Sorry.
Don't be sorry. No,
So
it's interesting
informative.
that it is very informative. It's very telling that your ex would use the adjective embarrassed. I'm embarrassed. To shine the spotlight on you as the problem, instead of self-reflecting and thinking, why would I be embarrassed? She didn't do anything. Oh, it's a reflection of me. I guess I'm feeling like she's not giving me enough attention, but he's not willing and not able, or both, to go there.
Yeah. And it's a shame-based disorder. So I'll say the word disorder. Doesn't matter if they're diagnosed or not. I'm not applying to be, I'm not applying for any of those things. It's just like, it doesn't matter. It is shame-based. And so that's why they don't self-reflect. That's why they jump from partner to partner. They're not going to stop. What do you think he was sitting around going, oh, what did I do to ruin my 33-year relationship? Nah.
Right.
She just went over to his girlfriend's house because that stops the pain immediately. And then, of course, the smear campaign is already going on. And this is why I teach the internal validation. The smear campaign has been going on. The new partner definitely I'm sorry, let me just call her what she is. The new supply really thinks that sorry, I don't play around. The new supply.
We're not talking popcorn.
We're not talking popcorn. She really thinks that she saved him from the terrible wife. But that's what she was fed. And so, look, I know.
Until she figures it out, and then he discards her.
Yeah. And I hear that they get worse with age. He was already pretty bad at the end. So I don't know. Good luck to her. Look, I feel bad for her in some ways, but she was also a friend and a coworker. And so she was right in front of our face. And so, look, we all went out as friends and stuff like that. It's like, that's not okay. I just don't like anything. I don't like anything about that. So I used to kind of be like, oh, I feel kind of bad for her. Now I'm like, you knew what you were doing. You're a grown adult.
She's grown. She's not 20. And also going back to the shame that they feel.
Yeah.
It goes back to what you said at the start, which is the best kind of kryptonite for women is self-esteem.
Yes.
Setting those boundaries. And the reason this new narcissistic supply, this woman is with him, and the reason we fall prey for it is because we don't have those boundaries. And the shame that the narcissist feels is easily sucked into the victim.
Yeah.
So this woman doesn't have
she was the perfect target. Like, she's successful. She has a lot of friends, things like that. And so I know for him, it was going to be like, oh, I get this whole new life. And then he could show his mother, I'm so, like, all my petties coming out. He could show his mom, look, Mom, my new toy. Look at it. Because he's been telling it. I know, look, oh God. Anyway, I know for a fact that, because look, I have grown children. They told me some things. I'd be like, I feel like your dad, blah, blah, blah. And they'd go like, yeah, this is what he's telling people. So my kids know, because I have grown children. I don't involve them in things. They don't watch me. They don't listen to me. They don't want to know all these stories about their dad. But they know because they saw it with their own eyes and
Mhm.
could make their own decisions because he was bringing the quote unquote new girlfriend. I never call her new because she was right there in front of my face the entire time. And so they, he brought her around right away. And it's just a friend, helping me heal. And they were like, no, Dad, what? What are you doing?
Ah.
So, they just don't want to deal with any of their feelings and emotions. And why? That doesn't make any sense to them. They don't need to be a quote unquote better person. They just need to get somebody to follow the rules. This is how I want to be. Are you going to follow the rules? And I stopped following them. And so he was like, okay, let's move on to the next one, please. Get out of the way.
God.
I mean, I feel like people have to listen to your wisdom again and again. Like this podcast needs to be played again and again.
Oh yeah, and then check out your podcast too.
Yes, I interview people who have been through it as well. But even on my social media, like I feel like I'm telling the same 5 stories over and over, but every day I have new people who are coming on there to talk about their experience because they are all the same. I swear there's a handbook out there. I called it when I knew they were going to get together. I knew when he was going to engage, get engaged. I knew when they were going to get married. All these things. It's like, and then now I'm so clear on the process of how it happened. The grooming that happens, the way they mirror you, all those things. And it's so hard for those of us who have morals and values and are trying to think logically. I feel bad. I always tell people, look, do not try to think about this logically. There's no answer to why. The answer to why is because they needed you to, it's like they're a battery and they were drained and they needed to supply. So, but that has nothing to do with you. That he replaced me immediately after 33 years, I felt like garbage. But as I understood narcissistic abuse, I'm like, oh, so it's not me, it's them. Right. It's him. He needed something. He needed a supply. So there's nothing wrong with me. Because, right. And the reason I can confidently say that is because I've been doing a hell of a lot of work. Yeah. I'm not perfect, but man, I mean, I've been working really hard because this is what we're left with. We're left with healing and trauma, and they're just off living their life. And so don't look at them, what they're doing. Don't look at it. It's all a lie. Everything on social media is a lie. You think it's, oh, I'm so happy and great. No, they're not. Oh, people come to me, women come to me all the time. He wrote that she's the love of his life. I go, what else is he going to write? Of course he's writing that. Because he wants everyone to think that he won and that he survived his awful marriage. Because he's not going to go, I really liked my last wife, but you know what? She stopped doing X, Y, and Z. And, then they don't mention anything they did. So,
right.
They're focused on the optics, the narcissist.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Very shallow.
Yeah, for sure.
So where can people find you?
You're all over the place.
I'm all over everywhere.
I love it.
Instagram, we have Facebook, and I love that it's all the same. That's where I'm at, podcast.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, podcast.com. Will get you all my stuff. I have multiple books and resources, and I have, I have tons of resources for you guys. So if you want to know more, if you need help healing, but yeah, that's where I'm at, podcast.com, and you'll get every social media link. Yeah, I do my podcast on YouTube as well. So awesome. Everywhere, come see me. I'm making fun of narcissists every day.
Yeah, see, that's what I like.
Yeah, me too.
That's what I like. You've just turned it into something just relatable and fun and digestible, and it's not cringy. You're like, okay, here's the thing, and there's humor involved in it.
Well, I'm a lifelong learner. So I like the real me would like to just sit and with a PowerPoint, just talk to you about it. But I'm like, that's boring. So, I know that's not for everybody. So I do some stuff that's a little educational, and then I do a lot of humorous stuff. And then I talk about healing, what you can do to heal, how you can break the trauma bond. Like I said, I swear it's the same 5 stories over and over because they're all the same, and our healing is all going to look very similar. But just starting to love yourself is where we're going to start.
It's a
So
beautiful
good, Laura.
message.
Thank you for coming
Thank
on
you.
the show with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I hope it helps everybody.
No, you are a light.
It will.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh.
Thank you, Laura. I'm just gonna end
Look at
the
that
recording.
self-esteemed answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, what am I going to say? No, God, no. No, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
trying.
Walking the walk.
Listen, and when someone gives you a compliment and you don't believe it, grab it and hold on to it, write it down, and live off of it. That's what I had to do. You have to.
Love that.
So sort of the fake it till you make it, but listen, just start believing it, because I bet the person that you're hearing in your head who, if I said, no, I'm not, who was that? Who told me that? Somebody told you that you're not pretty, or that you shouldn't take pictures, or that you're not good at. Somebody told you that, and that's whose voice you hear. We got to knock that voice out. We got to start putting in the good stuff. Your brain can be rewired. That's why I tell people it's not too late. Your brain can be rewired. As a speech therapist, I learned this working with children who are nonverbal. And I know for a fact we can do this. We can change our brain. We just have to start doing the new things so that we can crowd out the old things. So
I love that.
Wrote that down.
Thank you, Laura.
thanks so much, you guys. I appreciate it.
Well, that's a wrap. Remember, when everything's going wrong, it just means you're crafting a great story. Stay tuned for more episodes where we turn life's lemons into laughable tales. Don't forget to like and subscribe and keep finding the best in the worst, because life's too ridiculous not to laugh at it.